Delta Airlines is flying again after an overnight computer glitch, but is struggling to restore its schedule of flights. The mess was triggered by a power outage in Atlanta, leaving thousands of passengers stranded. With an update on this nightmarish start to the work week is WSJ's Middle Seat columnist, Scott McCartney. Hi, Scott.
Hi, Tanya.
So Delta says while it has resumed flying, there's going to be quite a significant lag time for passengers as it gets its schedule up and in order. Is that right?
Yeah, and I think that's, as we saw with Southwest, there can be fits and starts to the computer equipment itself as they get started, but there's also the enormous complexity of having a global shutdown and then trying to restart operations.
Now, we know that computer glitches happen, but how often do we see a system-wide outage?
Well, this is a problem that's really starting to plague the airline industry. A couple weeks ago, Southwest had about 4 days ruined and huge long lines. 2013, American had an outage. United has had several. Several other airlines have had. They have backup systems. They have redundancy. They have. In almost every case, they have a remote site where they can restart operations should a tornado wipe out their operations center. But time and again, we see these problems that it is so complex. It takes a long time to recover, even when they can figure out what the problem is.
And then this, of course, has a domino effect, as we're seeing right now, not only on Delta, but it affects all the other airlines, correct?
Well, it can affect partners in terms of connecting passengers and things like that. It can slow up other airlines when Delta planes are clogging gate space and other resources at airports. In theory, should make it easier for other airlines to get in the air because you don't have to wait behind Delta planes. But once they get going, it'll be a surge that'll slow up the system.
Absolutely. And Scott, what are airlines then doing to avoid scenarios like these in the future? I mean, is there anything you can do to plan for this?
Well, I think they're looking at more redundancy. They also may need to look at how they deal with disruptions. Airlines are really built for storms. Hurricanes, they know how to handle really well. Blizzards, they know how to handle really well. They get out of the way. They have a restoration plan. They can get back on track in a matter of hours. When it's a global blizzard or a global hurricane, if you will, it is much more complex. You have planes in places where there's one crew with the plane and they time out, so you have to wait a day or send in another crew. You have thousands and thousands of passengers canceled, and the airline's on the hook for this. This is not a weather problem that they're not responsible for in terms of accommodations, people stranded. That's the airline responsibility.
Absolutely. And is it a huge blow to reputation as well as the bottom line? I mean, this cost airlines millions of dollars to fix.
It'll be interesting to see. Delta has a very strong reputation for operations. They have done great things to really reduce cancellations and run more on time. But this is going to upset a lot of people. On the other hand, multiple airlines have had similar problems, and I think in some ways travelers just chalk it up to the unreliability of air travel.
All right, Scott, finally, any tips for people traveling today?
Well, if you can, look at other airlines to jump on. It's always difficult, especially on a Monday in summertime. But it's a really difficult problem. Even the notification systems at Delta were affected by this. You couldn't get an accurate flight schedule or flight status. So I think patience is what's really needed.
Yeah, grin and bear it. All right, Scott, thank you so much for that.